Good morning and afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of Recruit Military Live, where we will be discussing the ways in which AI is transforming veteran hiring. And as a reminder, please feel free to drop any relevant questions or comments you may have during today's episode, or just let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to hear from our audience. As always, I'm your host, Gabby Petticrew, and I also work within the social and marketing team here at Recruit Military. For those that may be unfamiliar within our organization, Recruit Military is the nation's leading veteran hiring platform, connecting employers with over 1.5 million engaged military job seekers through a full suite of solutions, including placement services, career fairs, a dedicated job board, employer branding, and our military-centric publication, Search and Employ magazine. With over 100 career fairs hosted annually and strong ties to the Department of Defense, as well as top employers, we help organizations hire with purpose while empowering veterans to thrive in civilian careers. Now, I'm very excited for today's episode and to bring on our two guests, the first of which is a fellow member of the Recruit Military family. He is the Executive Vice President of Business Development at Recruit Military, where he plays a vital role in connecting employers with top veteran talent. A former U.S. Army cavalry officer who served a 14-month deployment in Iraq, Jake brings over 15 years of experience in recruitment, sales leadership, and veteran advocacy. Since 2009, he's held key positions across Bradley Morris and Recruit Military, driven by a deep passion for helping transitioning service members find meaningful careers. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jake Hutchings. Good morning, Jake. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Gabby. Thanks so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I'm really excited to dive into today's live. I know we have not only yourself, but another amazing second guest that is joining us from an organization called Findem, a cutting-edge talent acquisition platform that unifies sourcing, CRM, and analytics powered by AI to eliminate recruiting inefficiencies. And what sets Findem apart is its proprietary 3D data model, which pulls from over 100,000 sources to help recruiters look beyond resumes and find the best fit talent. Recognized as one of America's most innovative companies, Findem helps organizations like RingCentral and Medallia achieve better hires, faster recruiting, and stronger ROI. Our second guest, currently leads the military and veteran talent initiatives at Findem. As a current U.S. Army officer in the Army Reserve, she brings firsthand experience and deep insight into the veteran talent landscape. At Findem, she's focused on developing tech-driven solutions that bridge the gap between military service and civilian careers, leveraging data, automation, and storytelling to surface the unique value veterans bring to today's workforce. Passionate about creating opportunity through partnership and innovation, Heather is on a mission to make talent acquisition more inclusive, strategic, and impactful. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in also welcoming Heather Haag. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Gabby. Hi, Jake. Really excited to be here with you both.
Hi, Heather.
Well, yeah, I'm absolutely excited because for anyone that's been awake, especially during this year and in the current state of the world, AI is only becoming more and more relevant in today's world. It's being utilized in everything, and specifically when it comes to military job seekers, transitioning veterans, the entire military community. So today we're going to explore how AI can break down barriers within that veteran hiring space. And we'll look at, the current challenges for those job seekers and the current hiring challenges for employers, how AI is solving those challenges and the real world value for those job seekers, as well as the employers, and how those are so vital. So kicking it off, first and foremost, from coming from more the veteran perspective, Jake, what are some of these challenges that, from your perspective and in your current position and title, what are these challenges that you're hearing from the veteran community when it comes to the job market and that transition from the military sector into the civilian job market?
Yeah, Gabby, thanks for that question. It's one of the challenges that we try to solve every single day here at Recruit Military, as you know, is the veteran job seeker brings a wealth of transferable skills to the market. The problem is that our job titles don't always align. And how does that veteran that is looking for that position in corporate America take those transferable skills that are really meaningful to what they've done in the service and would be meaningful to an employer, and do that translation and apply to the positions that are actually really good fits for them, where they can go make that impact in America? You know, the other struggle is how do I convey that not only in an interview, but how do I convey that on a resume? How am I getting through the noise of all of the other recruiting things that are happening and make sure that my skill sets are shown in a light that is equal to or excited about when corporate America looks at our backgrounds? That's the big thing for us, is understanding those transferable skills, helping the veterans articulate those transferable skills, whether it's through resume or conversations, so we can be seen during that job application process.
Absolutely. And then for Heather, on the flip side of that, what is it like for the struggles and challenges that employers are currently enduring?
Yeah, Gabby, great question. And it complements Jake's answers very well. The challenges employers see are not so different from the challenges that candidates see. We often hear it's not so hard to identify who a veteran is. It's easily put on a resume, but it is very hard to understand one if that's not the lived experience you had or professional experience you've had. So understanding how experience translates to a civilian role is really where kind of that first disconnect starts happening from the employer side. Recruiters and hiring managers often don't know how to assess if a service member's skill sets aligns with their current open roles that they're sourcing for. So as a result, qualified veterans are frequently overlooked or underutilized, not because of a lack of skill sets, but because their experience doesn't fit neatly into traditional job titles or keyword searches. So an example of this actually is when we look at certain key roles such as software engineers or account executives, we find that veterans have 2 to 4 more years of experience in the exact same role and at the exact same level as their civilian counterparts. We can zoom out and look more broadly, and we see some more positive stats with that. Veterans are 55% more likely to find themselves in an executive leadership role and 31% more likely to stay in a company for over 4 years. So we really see kind of 2 data paths here. One showing that there is a problem with underemployment or underutilization, and the other showing that when a company can get past that translation barrier and make veteran hiring part of their talent strategy, that they get high ROI. You have people staying much longer and leading at a much greater capacity. But the first barrier is the translation. And then, kind of the second challenge that our employers do really see, and this is a kind of a overarching talent acquisition challenge, is that TA teams are stretched really thin. Veteran hiring, unless it's part of the actual strategy, can easily get deprioritized or put a little bit lower in the priorities when it's an initiative. And it's not due to lack of intent, of course, but lack of time and tools. So recruiters may not feel very confident interpreting military resumes or know what questions to ask to go deeper into a candidate's experience and then relate that back to their role. So this plus legacy systems that really just rely on key titles or keyword searches and job titles kind of create an atmosphere where it's challenging to capture the nuance of military experience.
No, absolutely. And just like you mentioned, the struggles and challenges that employers are experiencing kind of feed into the challenges that veterans are also experiencing, right? It's just an endless cycle between why can't I get hired? What aren't they understanding? Why am I not able to translate these skills? And, when that doesn't happen, employers are also like, I don't understand what this experience is. And like you mentioned, overlook such amazing military talent. Mm-hmm. Now, moving forward, in what ways is AI uniquely positioned to solve these problems, both for employers and these job seekers? Heather, from the employer's perspective, how do you feel AI is helping to improve these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So a good friend and colleague of mine, I think, framed this really well in that veterans don't need to be changed. They need to be understood in context. And that's where I think we can see AI make a really significant impact, is understanding that context and then relating it appropriately. Mm-hmm. So, as an example, AI can be used to translate military terms into civilian equivalents, helping recruiters understand that someone like a company commander or a first sergeant might most likely brings, high leadership skills, planning abilities, operational excellence, and foresight all to the table, which are all really highly sought after and relevant skill sets in, corporate roles, but it's just not so easily and often expressed on a resume. So AI can start kind of filling in some gaps there. But we also recognize when we're talking about AI that for it to be a strong tool for employers, it is only as good as the data that feeds. So it is really critical, particularly when talking about talent, that data can be verified, understood, and then expressed in a way that is appropriate for the talent. It's accurate and then understood by employers and recruiters. So that's kind of what we've done at Findem. It's a pillar of our belief, with data being the key dynamic there. So what we've done is we've utilized AI to go beyond job titles by using over 100,000 data sources to create really multidimensional 3D profiles of talent. And that includes our veteran talent as well, which maps, inferred skills, values, career trajectories, and attributes instead of just hard keyword searches. And this extensive data has really allowed our AI to connect the dots between military experience and actual requirements of civilian jobs, making talent that often goes unseen much more visible. And it's efficient at the end of the day. We talked about the challenge of time and ability for recruiters. AI is there to kind of remove the need or the lift from recruiters to have to go between sources to validate and understand military background. And it can do that for them, mapping the skills, translating the experiences, and, generating that outreach all in one place. So that's something we've really focused on and how we utilize AI at Findem and our Talent Data Cloud platform.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And, for your perspective, Jake, also, how is AI assisting when it comes to the veteran aspect?
Yeah, so I love everything Heather just said, by the way. It's really great. The way we think about it is focus, reach, translation, and trust, right? Is creating focus around the veteran community. And I think Heather touched on this, is that too often what we see in corporate America is that veteran hiring is a project. It's not part of the talent acquisition plan. And so a tool, AI itself, is that if it can create that level of focus where we're surfacing veterans with those transferable skill sets that align, and then to the reach part is where we can actually communicate with the veterans and say, hey, one of our struggles is we also don't know what's a good fit for us. Like, what role should I be applying to? And so if organizations can reach those veterans that have those skill sets around that regular old talent acquisition process. And then to Heather's point again, is doing that translation for that poor recruiter that's trying to understand what a company commander actually did and how that company commander and how that first sergeant can make an impact in their organization. And then together, all of that coming to a head in trust is like ensuring that both the veteran community feels like they're connecting with jobs that they're a good fit for, which they can make an impact for, they have the culture around, and for recruiters and hiring managers to feel like, yeah, these candidates that I'm seeing, these candidates that I'm interviewing, these candidates that I talk to, they are game changers. They're fantastic. They're great for what we need. So how does the AI systems that are being created kind of hit those wickets in a way that everybody feels good about those connections that are being. So if we can speed up the element of all of the things that RecruitMilitary does through conversations, training, education, if we can speed that all up, that means more veterans find meaningful employment, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. And then it also, I feel like, creates things within just the hiring industry, regardless if you're a recruiter, that employer, that job seeker. I just feel like it's so much pressure and stress, right? Whether you're looking for a candidate or trying to land that job yourself as a job seeker. And in including AI in these programs and utilizing these tools, I feel like removes a level of stress, right? A level of pressure on both sides also. And like you said, making the process more efficient and more streamlined. And so it seems like there's, very obvious benefits to utilizing these programs. But from y'all's perspective, what are the tangible benefits to both, first and foremost for employers for utilizing this approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit on it really well, Gabby, in that the stress is there. Being able to remove that, being able to remove that stress, those additional barriers, whether it's for veteran talent or general underserved communities, allows the recruiter, allows the TA teams to then focus on what they really need to do. And that is build out their talent strategy, bring in the right talent, really understand what, their hiring managers are looking for, and spend a lot more time and energy around, those impactful actions versus having to constantly go back and forth of validating, understanding, researching, reaching out. So I think one of the biggest tangible benefits is, the automation to free up time to really focus on those impactful actions.
Yeah, and I think too, from the automation to speed that up, but also it increases the training time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the unique things about the military, so when we think from a pipelining perspective, there's 230,000 active duty service members that make that transition every single year, right? So, but understanding how that machinist mate and what they've done in the service affects my business, there's more machinist mates out there. And so if we can help organizations understand that those transferable skill sets are aligned often with our training and our experiences, and we're surfacing those veteran candidates, then again, the training is also organic. It's not just sitting through a PowerPoint presentation. And let me tell you why it's great to hire armor officers. Instead, it's, hey, I already have hired armor officers. I know what they're bringing to the table. And there's more of them out there. And if I can get this part right, and we can get this education piece right, and I've informed my hiring managers and my talent professionals and my recruiters, all of these skill sets that bring to the table, now there's a pipeline that's behind them. And so from a pipelining perspective and a bench perspective, veterans bring so much of that to the table. It's just about getting seen. And so again, back to the kind of the theme here is, if the AI and the places this technology is going can surface the veterans for the opportunities that they're a good fit for, it becomes way more impactful for our community to find meaningful employment. So those are the things that I'm kind of really excited about in terms of this next generation of talent acquisition.
Yeah, if I can add there too, a tangible from the candidate side, I'll switch over to your viewpoint a little bit, Jake. To the point of training and understanding, we get that training in the military. Essentially, you train and learn on the job in corporate America too. But when the talent's coming to the table, they're transitioning out. AI is a great tool to start understanding what career path do they want to start searching, what's a good fit for me, what are the nuances of being in operations or logistics or sales, for example. And the more they can learn in a easily related context, the more likely they are to apply for jobs that are actually going to be a good fit for them. And then matching that with tools that actually do the translation and do the job fit matching, the likelihood of somebody being happy in that role, being hired, happy in that role, and staying and excelling really increase, because now both sides, talent and recruiters, are kind of meeting in the middle for understanding and being seen by the right people for the right jobs.
Yeah, I like too what you said about servicing the veterans that are underemployed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we have that transitioning hurdle we have to jump over and helping the translation. But I work with a lot of veterans that have already made that transition. They're I'm kind of ready for my next thing. How do I get re-seen? And maybe when I made that transition into corporate America, I went down a career path that I wasn't really excited about. And where do I branch off? How do I make those turns? And so if this technology can continue to surface those veterans that are looking for the next step, again, at RecruitMilitary, we care about finding meaningful employment and ensuring that those veterans are finding that next level, that next step for them that gets them excited. So that's another piece from the job seeker side that says, you know what, there's really something here as long as I have all of my kind of information and ducks in a row, as you mentioned earlier, Heather.
No, and one question that I have, because it's something I think, for a lot of individuals, especially in this space, we're utilizing AI tools every day. Like in the social and marketing realm, I know it's become my best friend. So from both of your perspectives, especially Heather, with this being your bread and butter, what have kind of been, while there's been so many people that are pros and understand the tool and the asset that AI is, what's your response really to kind of more the hesitancy and the naysayers of AI? Because I know that's also, I see that conversation going on in social quite a bit, right now, where there's just, it's new, it's unknown. People are afraid AI is going to take over the world and take my job type of thing. Mm-hmm. definitely that stigma out there. So what is kind of, been like Findem's response just to that narrative, just to the unknown, really?
No, certainly. I think, like you said, there's excitement and there's hesitation around AI because the possibilities are certainly, seemingly endless. But I think one area that's really important, both in how we're designing our platform when we think and go forward with product, and then just as people are utilizing it, whether it's talent or, industry, is that certainly it's going to automate certain things. But when we talk about recruiting, for example, recruiters, talent acquisition, AI isn't there to replace the person. So, the goal isn't to say like we've replaced all of our workforce and now we're doing this and there's no human element. When we're talking about talent specifically, there's such a human element that you can't remove the people. And on the talent side, you can't strictly rely on AI to do it for you. You still have to come together and, show up as talent ready to interview. That is a person-to-person experience. On the recruiter side, you still have to be ready to look and say, is somebody going to be a cultural fit? What is, their EQ? What's your own EQ? Bringing that to the table to make sure you understand talent to their most full capacity when you're making these assessments. So I would say, not quite to naysayers, but to maybe those who are hesitant, look at how the data supports, whatever AI you're using. Is it a strong database? Like, kind of how we've built our product. We find that really important. And then just keep yourself involved. It's not a hands-off, experience. It's still very involved. You drive your own narrative. Companies drive their actions, and it's just meant to be an enhancement tool.
Yeah. From the veteran perspective, and just even in what I do every day when I talk to companies about helping them find veterans, it to me is like a speed increaser. Right? It's like, how do I make my day more efficient and reach out to folks that are, have the transferable skills that are meaningful, and how do I reach them? But to Heather's point, the feeling of an interview, the feeling of being wanted and having a conversation, and the feeling of understanding of what I've done in the service and how that relates to the business, there's not a technology that's going to replace that in a long time. So you think of it in terms of, for my recruiter brothers and sisters, is that it's going to speed up what we're doing, but you still have to talk to the candidate. And by the way, from a veteran's perspective, we still want to be talked to. There's plenty of this software out there that does all of these things. I still want to have a conversation with somebody about, tell me what the day in the life of at this particular company. How do my skill sets fit? And that is not going to get replaced anytime soon. So speeding up to get to that process, to essentially, hopefully, with the way we think about it at RecruitMilitary, is how do I spend more time with a candidate? It's not less time. It's more time spending with the candidate to ensure that they are the right fit. They do have the transferable skills. Culturally, they feel good about that piece. My placement services team spends hours and hours and hours of talking to veterans every single day. And that's not going to get replaced. It's just about how we can reach out to those folks that are good fits, and then help the veterans understand that they're good fits and still have that EQ on the back end of it.
I think you guys both touched on that beautifully and have hit on kind of, these ongoing conversations that I'm seeing in the social space. And really, you guys just both truly touched on how AI really is helping bridge the gap between, the civilian military divide in hiring, and how AI is integrated and helping veteran recruitment, unlocking opportunities for both employers and job seekers. And, with these tools, with these enhancements, and also still very much the presence of that human element, these organizations can hire smarter, faster, and with greater impact. And so for any of our audience members or anyone that wants to gain further information on these tools, on these programs, specifically Findem, and within everything that RecruitMilitary, Jake, that RecruitMilitary is doing within this AI spectrum, how can they get further information? Where can they start kind of tapping into the AI space?
Well, from the veteran community, what we always want to make sure that you're doing is reaching out to recruitmilitary.com, come to our events, meet employers, make sure your profile is squared away. and you have all that information out there, because the world is changing. And these types of technologies that Findem has and others do is like, we want to make sure you're surfaced. And so being prepared digitally, right, is kind of that first step now. And then it's going to be prepared with your resume, be prepared to provide a great interview, and know that STAR format in and out. So all the things that we talk about with the RecruitMilitary, but for us, it kind of starts at come register with us to make sure we get you under our wing and make sure we're helping you out with that job search.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'd say for Findem, if there's a curiosity just on how is data so impactful in AI or in talent acquisition, and AI in talent acquisition, come talk to us. You can visit our website. It'll be dropped in the chat at findem.ai, and we'd be happy to set up time to talk really with anybody and just go over why is data so important? How does it work in AI? And how does it affect our platform? How are we actually utilizing this to bring talent to the forefront, and how it's used for underserved communities like veterans who need that equalizer and deserve that equalizer. And we'd be very, very happy to talk about it extensively.
No, absolutely. And thank you again, both of you, for joining me today and discussing such a relevant topic that, we've all agreed is only going to get more relevant in this space, especially within the hiring space, and really focusing and narrowing down the benefits to not only employers, military-friendly employers, but also to those transitioning job seekers who already know the struggle of the process of that transition, but maybe aren't aware of all of the capabilities and assets that AI is really presenting to them. So thank you again for joining me today and touching on this. I'm sure it will not be the last time that we are discussing AI. And for our audience members, whether you're an employer looking for that next, candidate, or a job seeker just trying to find that perfect match, we welcome you and invite you to join the RecruitMilitary family. Build that RecruitMilitary profile at recruitmilitary.com. And then also, for any of those venturing into the AI space, whether you're an employer or a job seeker, please keep that open mindset. And as Heather mentioned, and Jake as well, any relevant links and resources that we discussed today will be dropped into the comments. And also, for anyone that supplied any great questions that we've been seeing coming through, we'll ensure to get those answered as well. Please feel free to reach out for any further questions. But thank you again for joining us for today's episode of RecruitMilitary Live, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thanks, Gabby.